Well guys, I think I'm ready to call it. This is the best bike of 2023. Just, there you go. Good job, Moto Guzzi. You win. Bye. Okay, all right, I used that joke before, but honestly, I was not anticipating this bike being as great as it is. This is what I'm gonna go ahead and call a new category of motorcycles. It's a F you motorcycle. This is the kind of motorcycle that a manufacturer makes when they are sick and tired of people saying that they're not up to snuff. And then they're like, no, F you, our motorcycles are great. Look at this. That's exactly what this is for Moto Guzzi. This is a thoroughly modern, thoroughbred sport touring badass machine. I freaking love it, and much like Harley Davidson and their Pan Am, I don't know that Moto Guzzi had any right to come out and make a motorcycle this freaking awesome. And let's dive on into this thing, because there is so much to talk about here.
All right, real quick before we dive into the Twisty segment here, I do want to just go ahead and qualify that statement that I made just a second ago about it feeling like Moto Guzzi had no right to make a bike this good. Now, what I mean by that is not that Moto Guzzi builds bad bikes. I want to be very clear about that. Moto Guzzi has been known for a long time to be making very quality, like handmade in Italy motorcycles. They make awesome stuff. But this is such a departure from the Guzzis that are rolling around on streets today. Like when you think of a Guzzi, you think of the V7 or the V9, which I don't know if they make anymore. I could be wrong. Or you think of the V85 TT. And those are great bikes. Don't get me wrong. But they're not this great. This is like, they were shooting for the moon and they landed right exactly to the millimeter where they planned to go. This bike just feels like it ticks every single box that the creators wanted to tick. And there's a little shout out for you guys who wanted me to review bikes like that. This bike, it feels like they set out to make a premium feeling sport touring motorcycle that could handle with the best of them. That's what you got right here. So let's go over to a quick little twisty road and show you exactly how good this thing really handles. All right, let's get after it. This thing flips side to side so freaking fast and so effortlessly. I'm floored by the handling chops on this motorcycle. I really am. You know, big ADV bikes and sport touring bikes, they tend to not be the sharpest things in the shed, and Ducati did so much work on the Multistrada to make it as sharp as it is. And usually you have to make some sacrifices for the like comfort and upright, you know, ergos, and usually that comes at the expense of handling. But God, this bike feels so freaking good. So the active suspension is doing the work for me. It's really hard for me to quantify just how good this Olin setup feels. It really is, because without riding the same bike without that suspension, you can't be like, this is where the difference lies. And there is a version of this that just comes with the fully adjustable KYBs, which, oh no, I only have fully adjustable KYB suspension on my motorcycle. Whatever shall I do? Does everybody need this crazy rocket ship level technology? No, you absolutely don't. But my God, is it such a flex. Another thing that I want to talk about are the brakes on this motorcycle. So we have Brembo brakes, 2 calipers up front, Brembo master cylinder with the little remote reservoir. I mean, honestly, it feels like they just took the handlebars right off the Tuono and were like, we're going to put that on the Mandello. I love the way these front brakes feel. They're really potent too. Like, you can slow down very fast, and I've got a car down behind me, otherwise I would jam on the brakes and show it to you. But the amount of juice in the lever is impressive, but it's not snatchy, which is really cool. You can manage the brakes with one finger, and I really like that. Along with the torque from the engine when it's when you're off the throttle, the engine braking, because it's a V-twin, it slows itself down really, really great. Love the way that the braking is on this motorcycle. But let's talk about the throttle and the power. So I mentioned this in my first ride, but Shade Tree hopped into the comment section of my V85 TT video, and he was like, you know, I really love the V85, but I hate the engine. It's so boring. To him, I guess it was basically like his versus 650. Again, I apologize to keep beating the drum on this one, guys, but the versus 650, can we all agree that it's just okay? But anyway, yeah, he was riding it and he didn't enjoy it. And looking back, I can kind of see where he's coming from. It was just adequate. It had some character because it did the side-to-side thing, but it wasn't like, it didn't really feel like it was as potent as the specs said. This thing feels great. It's a thoroughly modern, water-cooled engine that gets up and goes every bit like my Ducati does. Now, admittedly, this is, I think, I don't know. We'll talk more about the specs in a second, but it's over 1,000 cc's, and you'd kind of expect it to make a little bit more power, but personally, I think the power for a Twisty Road is exactly where you'd want it to be. But, you know, all things considered, on a Twisty Road, this is one of the best bikes I have ridden in a hot minute, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. So let's kick this over to the specs segment and talk about what this bike is packing, because I honestly did not expect it to come this well stacked.
So some specs on the Mandello right here. This thing has a 1042cc V-twin that's opposed, so instead of being like this, it's like that. And one of the cool things about having this on here is it means that you have a shaft drive. These are really low maintenance, and they last forever. No need to replace your chains. Another cool thing about the opposed V-twin is the heads are really easy to get to if you want to do some maintenance on this motorcycle. I've done a valve job on a Ural before, and it's super easy to do because you don't have to remove a whole bunch of stuff. Now, this bike is making 115 horsepower and 77 foot-pounds of torque. That is a awesome, nice, healthy number. And honestly, it really does feel like every pony is hitting the ground thanks to that shaft drive. Shaft drives tend to be a little bit more direct with their power delivery. Chains can be just a little bit lossy, so it is, again, really cool that we have a shaft drive on there. 514 pounds though. This thing is a little bit heavy. Now, it doesn't really feel like it necessarily while you're standing on it, while you're standing still, but it is worth pointing out that this is a big motorcycle. Not physically big necessarily, as you're gonna see in a second, but it is a heavy bike. Now, moving into the ergonomics on this motorcycle, it has a 32.1 inch seat height, which is pretty good. However, it's wide between the legs, so even at 32.1, I do feel like I have more of a reach to the ground than I probably should. It is also worth pointing out that you can get a lowered seat, 31.5, I believe, and you can get a taller seat, which is 32.9 inches. Both of those are really nice. Personally, for me, I would 100% get the taller seat because it feels like this is too close. The relationship between peg and seat height, it's a little tight for me, especially on a motorcycle that I'm meant to be spending all day on. One last thing, since some people are going to be inclined to do maybe a little bit of gravel road work on a motorcycle like this, the standing ergonomics on it are completely busted. This was clearly designed for people to be sitting on it, not standing. So make sure if you're gonna chuck this down a gravel road, it's something that you're comfortable sitting on. Now, This bike has some serious pros and also some cons in it. It's a great package and I really do like it. I'm gonna say that right here because I do have some cons that I'm gonna bring up, and they're so that they can improve. I'm not trying to dog on the bike. So first pro, I really like the looks on this thing. It looks like if an Italian designed the Pan America. It's just got that sort of vibe. It feels kind of like sharky to me. It looks really cool. However, I could see somebody thinking that this is a little bit goofy. I think it's drop dead gorgeous. Another pro, this engine is awesome. This is the best engine Moto Guzzi has put in a motorcycle. It feels great, it makes great power, it sounds great. I really, really enjoy this power plant. Now, some cons. The seat. I do not like the seat on this motorcycle. Peering behind the curtain, I've already filmed my highway segment, and I've since been riding this longer. I've done about another 50 miles or so. That seat has gotten uncomfortable on me. I do think if you're touring, you know, multi-day trips, you're gonna wanna upgrade to like a Seat Concepts or something. Maybe the taller seat will help, but that seat, it's not doing it for me. Now this one's gonna be hard for me to talk about because, as I've said before and will say again, the folks at AF1 warned me that this transmission needs to break in. However, the quick shifter has not been working going down from second to first gear. It's also been really lurchy going from 1 to 2, and I have missed shifts there. It is on the motorcycle. I'm not like doing something wrong. I've double checked. The quick shifter light means that it's ready to go. It just doesn't work all that great. Everywhere else, it's feeling fine. It's totally fine. But it is worth pointing out that 1 to 2, it's feeling not so great. I actually downshifted one time from second to first, and it revved up in such a way that it like popped a wheelie when it was rev matching, which was really weird. I did not like that. Now again, I'm not ready to write off the whole transmission here because it feels great outside of the quick shifter, and maybe it will break in, but I do want to say that's the experience I'm having right now on this motorcycle. So take that for what you will. Last thing real quick, we'll talk about it more later, but there is so much technology on here that it can actually be overwhelming. And personally, I might look for the cheaper bike, the Mandello Not S version, the base model, which is like 15.5 versus this is 17.6-ish. It's a little bit cheaper, doesn't come with the Öhlins, and it allows you to go kind of a la carte with your features. If it doesn't come with the quick shifter, that would actually make me happier because I bet you the lever is gonna feel a bit better too. So again, caveat on the whole transmission deal, but I just wanted to point some of that out. Now with all of those pros and cons being said, let's get this thing out on the highway and see how it shakes down as a daily commuter.
Alrighty, pulling onto the highway with the Mandello. There is a lot of stuff to talk about here, but we're going to start out, because the rest of this has been super duper glowing up to this point, with something that kind of irks me, and I mentioned it earlier when I was talking about my kind of just rider comfort on this. The bike is small. It's smaller than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a very big motorcycle, and as a result of it being just a bit smaller in stature, the rider triangle is a little bit squished. My peg to seat is a lot closer than I thought. So it really does feel, vis-a-vis sport touring, that my feet are right up underneath my ass. And I would prefer if the pegs were a little bit lower. Now, I know why they did that, because they want to like increase lean angle or something, but yeah, okay. Can you take this to a racetrack? Sure. Would I suggest it? No. I mean, I would have sacrificed a few degrees of lean side by side for more comfort in the ergonomics package here, because that's something that I value more than lean angle. I really don't care about how far over my sport tourer can lean. Let's talk about that highway power, baby. this bike can get it. It's a fast little boy, and we're only in touring mode. I really like the power on this motorcycle. It's wide and broad. It's usable everywhere, whether it's torque in the mid to low end or horsepower in the high end. This engine feels phenomenal. It feels great. Now, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but this is where I talk about technology on these bikes. And the tech package on here is very sophisticated. I did miss my turn. I was not supposed to go this way because I'm supposed to be on the highway, but whatever. This will give me a little bit of time to focus on the tech because there's so much to talk about in here. Okay, so switching modes is as easy as pushing the mode switch button right here. That's awesome. I really wish that more bikes would just... honestly, a lot of bikes have this button, but some of them you gotta like dive into a menu. That's super dumb. Every motorcycle that has modes, it should just be that to switch modes. Perfect. If you want to get in and do some menu diving, engine management, CT, I think that's traction control, and then you've got your aero, and then you've got your that I believe is the adjustable suspension. So you can go in and go from automatic to manual, go from comfort. You can play around with so much in here. However, I did mention aero in there, right? So watch this. We're in touring mode at 40 miles an hour. Aero! Does it do anything? Not that I can tell. It is worth pointing out that this is always on in rain mode, so it might be just a way to push rain off of you. I don't really feel any difference in the actual ride, but something that is really neat that does make a difference: auto adjusting windscreen, or electronic adjusting windscreen. It's not automatic. You just push a button and it goes down, and you push a button and it goes up. That's super cool. Nothing new there. Goldwings do that, a couple other sport tourers do that, but that's just a great little feature. Keeps you from having to mess with a adjuster or something like that. And we have, maybe if the shift light is off, cruise control. Everything that you would want in a sport tour, and you can fit bags on here. If you're wondering if this is a dailyable motorcycle, hell yes it is. This is an excellent daily rider. I would prefer a slightly taller windscreen. I'm getting hit in the eyeballs right now, so a taller, broader windscreen would be nice, and maybe a taller seat so that I have, or lower pegs so that it's just a little bit more comfortable for somebody my size. But beyond that, A+ marks for this motorcycle. And it's got heated grips. I mean, there's so much that, if you want the full breakdown on the technology, find somebody else's video, because there's so much to talk about here. I don't want to put y'all to sleep. So let's pull this bike over and answer some Discord questions, because I know for a fact that we're going to have a whole bunch of them on this motorcycle, seeing as it is brand spanking new.
Alrighty folks, this is my favorite part of these videos, and that is answering Discord questions. It's always fun to see what people are thinking about with motorcycles, and I do want to point out that all of this whole channel is supported by the folks over on Patreon. That's how you get access to the Discord. If you like what I do here and you want to help out, and if you want to help keep the lights on, all of the information is down in the description below, and you'll be able to participate in these videos. So let's dive on in. Orange, this is not a question. That V-twin is turned the wrong way. No, your V-twin is turned the wrong way. He rides a 990. White and Blue asks, is the active aero noticeable when riding? No. Honestly, I'm sure it does something, but it's probably like a percent of air is moved around you or something like that. Feels a little bit like a gimmick to me. I would be okay with losing the aero, with losing the automatic raising and lowering front screen, and saving a little bit of cash on this motorcycle. Unless the guys at Guzzi or Piaggio Group can show me what this is doing, as a rider, I can't tell the difference. I've had it on, I've specifically switched from like rain mode to street mode, back and forth, so that I can try to feel the difference. It's minuscule on here. It looks really cool though, and I like how there's more orange or whatever this color is. Yeah, it's orange. I'm colorblind, but it's orange. There's more of that sticking out when it's up, so it looks cooler. Makes it faster. Frost, does the V100 feel like an Italian Katana or just kind of look like one? It looks like one. The Katana is a little bit more sporty. Not to say that this is not a sporty motorcycle. This thing sports super hard, but it's power-wise, it's a little bit more on par with something like an MT-09. For example, my Hyperstrada with an 821 from 2013 is making around about 110 horsepower and 65 foot-pounds of torque. So about 10 less torque and 5 less horsepower. So definitely more in the middleweight category. Fax asking a good follow-up to that last question. Do you think it competes with the bikes like the Tracer 9 or is it something completely different? No, I think this is a great competitor to the Tracer 9. I think it's a little expensive for a direct competitor to the Tracer 9. I think the Tracer's like 13 grand or something like that. I don't remember off the top of my head. But I would go with the base model of this if I was looking at a Tracer 9, because everybody's got like an MT-09, and that engine's great, but this just has more character. I like the feel of it better. This one's a good one. So Expecto Delito asks, in my experience, Guzzi makes bikes that are 80% as good as their competitors with 100% more quirky Italian emozione and passione. Have they finally managed to move beyond that reputation? Is there any reason to take it over a 1000 SX, the S1000 GT, or the 1200R, or the R1250 RS? So it's priced like a super top tier premium bike. Like it's at 17, this S model here, it's punching a little outside of its weight class, I'm not gonna lie. But for the base at like 15, I really like it, I really do. Not sure I need the fully active adjustable Olin suspension though. That feels a little extra. Last question here, Cameroni asks, who is the target audience for this bike? That's tough, man, that's really tough. I think that this bike has a lot to offer that younger rider who wants a performance-oriented middleweight motorcycle. Again, we come back to pricing on that. I think that it's for a more discerning rider. I think this bike is really competitive with the Tracer 9. I think it's competitive with bikes all the way up to stuff like almost your Super Duke GT. Obviously that has way more power, but in terms of like the livability of this motorcycle, it's great. And personally, I think its power is right where it needs to be. I don't think it needs to be making a ton of power. It's totally usable, it's totally playful, and it's really fast. So this is definitely not second bike territory, but if you're looking for your finisher, you're looking for one bike that can rule them all, so to speak, one ring to find them and in the darkness bind them sort of deal, I think this could do it. And that gives me a good opportunity to jump into my final thoughts on this motorcycle and whether or not it really is my bike of 2023.
Okay, so motorcycle of the year. Those are some strong words, and I don't throw those out there lightly. But I do mean it. This is definitely one of my contenders. Now, I do want to save the proclamation of period, full stop, end of story best bike. I want to ride the Super Meteor from Royal Enfield, and I want to ride the X-Cape from Moto Marini. I think both of those motorcycles make a strong case based on the specs and the pricing, but in its target market, which this is not a beginner bike, it's designed to be a finisher motorcycle It's a premium bike. This is, of that class, this is the best bike of the year for sure. It's doing stuff that I really value, and let's talk about that for just a quick second. When I'm looking at motorcycles, I really value things that are pushing the limits in some way. I really like a motorcycle that's trying to do something different. It's why the Pan America is so impressive to me, and why it's basically my favorite thing on two wheels, because it's the motor company redefining themselves with the bike, and that's so freaking cool, and I love to see that. And that's what this is for Moto Guzzi. This is them clearly trying to push the boundaries of what a Guzzi can be. Admittedly, there are some issues that I have with this motorcycle. It's not perfect. I think the seat's a little uncomfortable. I don't like the quick shifter feel. Again, I'm going to caveat that for like the third or fourth time in this video. That can change based on break-in, but I've had some problems with it as I've been riding it around today. But you know what? Everything else is awesome. I really, really like this bike. I really, really do. Now, let's talk a little bit more about price. If I had to pay 15 grand for this bike without the fully adjustable Öhlins and stuff, I'm done deal all day. Yeah, this is a great motorcycle. It's worth its asking price. It really is. And there's a ton of giggle factor on this motorcycle. I've had so much fun riding this thing around today. The torque out of the engine is lovely, and I'm having a ton of fun. I really do think this is the best bike of the year. I really do. It's going to be very hard to unseat this motorcycle. My hat goes off to the folks at Moto Guzzi for making this bike. It's another Pan America situation on our hands. It's a stratospheric leap forward. Love it. Love it to bits. And with that, guys, I'm gonna wrap today's video up. I am gonna keep riding this thing around because honestly, this is a bike where I just don't want to give the keys back, and that's the best thing I can say for a motorcycle, is I don't want to give the keys back at the end of the day. Remember, a huge shout out to the folks at AF1 for lending me all of these super snazzy motorcycles. If you want any of the information on this, it's all going to be in the description down below. And with that, I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.